Yeah, well, I mean, it's not going to be a long story. I can get to start from, like I said, I went to your meeting and I was amazed. First off, hardly anyone was able to show up because a lot of the companies, I imagine, in the DC area told their people they had already started making changes and told them not to go to any, kind of seminars like that.
Yeah, let me give everybody a little backstory. So we had an event in DC, and I think everybody was waiting for me to cancel it, because all the shows were starting to be canceled. I said, no, we're doing this meeting. I think we had 50 registrants. I said, there will be people that show up. And sure enough, John showed up. I mean, there was a bunch. A bunch of people showed up. They were like, you know what? Pandemic, plague, be damned, we're going to go down there. And so that's kind of brings everybody up to speed. And then now you and I are catching up 2 weeks later. So tell me what transpired.
Right. So, I mean, that was on a Wednesday, and I was there, by the time I drove all the way home, it was too late to come into work. So Thursday I come to work. Well, first off, let's just talk about it in the meeting. So that, I really didn't know what we were going to get into, but all of the, the bulk of the people that were in there were already had people, escalated numbers of people working from home, and they were having problems. And immediately I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, because we've done a tremendous amount of testing with disaster recovery in the event that something happened to our data center. But because I'm not in control of what's at people's homes and that sort of thing, we had kind of figured that was going to be our hard sledding if we ever had a disaster. Was, a lot of people access, luckily we have web-based access to our Exchange server, and we also have the application that we built that runs this company is web-based, and people use both of those from home already. So the thinking was, well, they'll just use their computers as we then, look into temporary office space, or do we want to roll out, equipment to people? What is our plan? Because I tried to get management to go deeper into DR than what IT had to in order to have a solid run book to be able to stand up our disaster data center in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But as far as accessing it, no one wanted to talk about. I brought in some information about where they pull a trailer here in the parking lot that has satellite dishes and blah, blah, all this stuff. And none of it, no one seemed to care. So, okay, I dropped it and then just said, it's not my responsibility. That's basically
a brief pause for a moment, John. Can you just, before we go too far, because you have a fascinating business. So we're based in Maryland. I'm in Annapolis, Maryland. You're on the Eastern Shore. Just tell my listeners, your peers, about your business, just a little bit, what you do.
Yes, I was brought here to develop a custom system for our logistics operation. So we're in transportation. We do less than truckload, fresh and frozen freight. We pick it up regionally at a dozen different places in the country and then deliver it nationally. And we have about 500 trucks on the road a week delivering food. So that we're an essential business, so we have to continue to operate.
Yeah.
It's not all food, but it's all almost all refrigerated and frozen. So the bulk of that obviously is food.
Wow, just amazing. So that kind of a little bit of the backstory of kind of who you are, and then so basically you have for a while been trying to get management's attention about business continuity planning, having a resilient business. And I think from some of the listeners, you had some traditional on-prem Exchange and on-prem app, and so what's happened since the past couple of weeks as you were driving home from the event?
Right. Well, so I come back Thursday, tell my guys about it. Well, we upgraded last year to Citrix, and we wanted to use the gateway to just allow even a thin client or someone with a Citrix app on their home PC to get on. But it was broken. We had tested it and it worked, but we had never really used it, and it turned out just to be an SSL issue. But we tried to put in a call to Citrix. Forget about it, man.
Just to get through. You're talking about the NetScaler, the front end gateway. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, trying to get through to them and get help. I mean, everybody they were just as slammed because all kinds of people were trying to use stuff that either wasn't set up correctly or was being overwhelmed. Who knows what all their calls were about? But Citrix, with their access anywhere kind of ideals, they were just slammed. So when I came back Thursday, told them they tried it Thursday. My guys tried it and it didn't work. They put a call in. Well, they told them it's going to be a while unless it's an emergency. Well, it wasn't an emergency because we weren't trying to use it yet. And then Tuesday, I gave a demo of a new application that we put together. And at the end of that, my boss said to stay in the room. And then he tells me, okay, I'm starting tomorrow, half of these people are going to go home. And the first thing I just said, and not so politically correct exclamation, and I said, I couldn't believe it. Just Wednesday, I was sitting in a room so happy that my boss wasn't one of these bleeps that is going to lay down an edict like this without ever talking to me. And he just the look on his face was, I can't even explain it. I probably wanted to kill me. But anyhow, so I explained to him, yes, we have this, and you can get these things, you can get Outlook, and you can get the application that these dispatchers use to do the business. They can get to those from home, but nothing else. And I really didn't think about any other side effects of what I was saying, but I said, the rest of it is based on what they have. They got a PC at home, and I don't know if they have Office. If they don't have Office, then they're not going to be able to open. Luckily, we don't use a lot of that. We're a very, the system was designed. I designed the system, and it's got all the data that the dispatchers need. Most of the documents that they use are PDFs, not Office documents. So they're not. This isn't like a project shop. These guys are operations. Say people would call it a call center when they come in, but they really are logistics people, and they're taking orders and building loads and setting appointments and telling drivers where to go and updating the system for their progress and that sort of thing. Well, so I say that, they can do this, but then they're like, well, we've got some people that really don't have stuff at home. And I'm like, or they got stuff and it's old and it needs to be upgraded. I'm like, look, man, you're talking about, I can't give you an answer on any one of these 10 people you just threw out there right away. Said, but I do know we have this product and we're trying to get it to work, but right now we're at a problem. Well, luckily the guy that manages all that kept playing around with it and he got it fixed. Okay. So by the end of the day, we were able to issue out, at that time we only issued out like 3 thin clients with monitors and peripherals. But since then we've probably issued out, I don't know, probably 30.
Using like those Wyse thin clients, or using
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we have here. We have and we're actually going. We can get into that more later, but we have very few computers here. Okay. Other than servers, as far as laptops and desktop computers, we have very few. So they think they're on computers. It looks like a computer, but they're actually in a Citrix environment, and it's just kind of the default desktop looking, but it's, the storefront, but it just...
Are you publishing like an app, or are you publishing desktop?
We're publishing apps, but it kind of looks, there's that one view of it that kind of looks like a desktop, but no, They can't save things to the desktop. They can't change their wallpapers. They've been restricted in these kind of ways for a long time because we were on terminal, Microsoft terminal services before that. So they really have been on this for a long time, even longer than I've been here. They were on thin clients when I got here. Yeah,
that's good. That's been Citrix's pitch since I started working with Citrix back in '98 or '99 or something. That's been their story from day one. So they've been used to using either the terminal server client or the ICA client for years. That's Citrix's pitch. And get that NetScaler to work, right?
Yeah. So, there was all kinds of problems at home because we have logic, we have a lot of policy-based stuff going on in our system such that, we use Chrome as a web browser and we make them use Chrome for everything, but it will also bring up Internet Explorer where we have the need. We have tons of sites that my guys, that the operations people have to go to set appointments, request appointments and manage their appointments at certain locations. And some of those are built for Internet Explorer. They're really old and still, using some of the extra features from an older version, and we automatically bring that up. But they can't use it for anything else. They're very regulated so that they have to use Chrome for our system. That's the biggest thing. And and then there's all kinds of some other things that came up about pop-ups and other settings that were in the browser that we have some plugins that we use to do some certain things. So basically anything that was different, they had problems with. And you don't know this until it happens. And I knew this would happen, but I envisioned it happening the week after some kind of disaster happened, if it ever did. I knew that this would happen. I've even told the guys, you can pretty much bank on one of you guys is just going to be going house to house to house to house, at least one of you, because people are going to have problems.
How many users do you have? How many users do you have?
All across the country, it probably runs in around 200. Here at HQ, in the main office of HQ, it's around 100. 100. Yeah, it might be 120, something like that. But when you tell people that they have to go home and use their own stuff, you have no clue what they got. You don't know if they might not use Chrome at home. They might use something else. And I test all of our external applications across different types of browsers, and some things that we have that are mobile, that are run on tablets or on these phones that they use to take pictures and upload them to the system. We test with those things, but I don't test, if they've got a Mac at home with Safari. I haven't tested every single thing that we do internally with that, So I knew that there would be problems, that I didn't realize just some of these others that I thought, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like I said, some of the sites won't work with Chrome, and they got to go over to Internet Explorer, which you can walk them through that. But, as these people are used to this all being managed through policy and just, the way it works in our system automatically, I didn't really expect it to be quite as much as it was. And this completely fixed that. I mean, we had people that, we have a lot of dual screen systems where they used to get paper that came in, like an order would get faxed in, or proofs of delivery would come in and they would lay them on their desk. Well, that all gets scanned into the system and goes into these work queues and drives them through working it. So they have dual screen systems. So they get home and they don't have dual screens. They're trying to hook it up to their TV. They're getting into all kinds of stuff and calling about, all kinds of connector issues. Just,
exactly.
It was bad.
HDMI.
And we were really lucky because we're in the middle where we've dropped it now. But the big thing we were doing this year is actually putting at 3 of our docks, putting thin clients and monitors at the actual dock doors and use the computer system as they're loading trucks. Stripping of trucks happens during the week at a slower kind of pace, and docks have between 3 and 8 of these carts that have a thin client on it, and they use carts to strip the trucks, print labels, barcode labels, put it on there, put them on the pallets, and have them put away in cold storage. But loading has always been done with paper. So we had bought a whole bunch of new thin clients and monitors, and we've replaced the ones in our dispatch area with the one single new kind, and then have a amalgamation of all these different versions of the thin clients and different monitors that we were going to use at the docks, because they, to try to make one at least the same, and then move these others out. And there's some other reasons why we did it based on the version of the thin client. But anyhow, we had our data centers just full of monitors and thin clients. So we got lucky in that regard that we had those to give out. Otherwise, they'd have to take them from their desk. That would really, and then bring them back. That would be a real.
so the fisherman essentially comes in, has a bunch of crabs. One of your employees meets the fisherman. I guess I'm going to say this in a rudimentary way, but counts the crabs. Let's say there's 100.
Well, no, it doesn't quite. It's not quite that backwoods. It's a little better than that. We get people that. Let's just take the dock here in Federalsburg, Maryland. So we take orders from our customers that are in Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and they just place orders with us. So if there's an actual fishing house that actually has their own account, they are making up their own pallets, and they're either saying it's cases of this or whatever the unit of measure is. I got a pallet of this that I want to send here. I got a because that's the nice thing about what we can do for them. Let's take somebody that catches fish and freezes it, rockfish, let's just say, so that we go in and we can pick up 20 pallets from them and take them to all across the United States to different cities, where back before these kind of a company that did this existed, you would have to get a truck going to Boston. So if you're going to take one pallet, you're going to just go ahead and take a whole truckload. Well, you're not apt to do that unless you have a lot of demand. So it really limits your ability, back before we existed, companies like us existed, really limited you in how far you could reach out into the market. You could go ahead and send someone up to Boston and have them spend time there and build up demand and send a truckload up there every now and then, but you couldn't just send a pallet to Chicago and a pallet to LA and to San Francisco. So that's what they do. They place the orders with us, and then we have trucks that we sell. When I say sell, they're not our trucks. So we find owner operators that we say, hey, we've got a load of frozen product going from Federalsburg, Maryland to, California, and you're going to stop here, and here. How much will you do that for? And we charge our customers a rate for hauling their pieces, and then we keep what's left as gross profit.
Sure.
So when it comes into the dock, we have checkers that strip the truck and they count the cases then, and they use these carts and then print off a tag and put it on the pallet and then put it away. And then on the lift, there's a computer, so they tell where they've put it. But when it came to Saturdays loading trucks, it's all been, they put pieces of paper in front of them. We actually have a network at this dock, not all of them, but here we have a network of these vacuum tube devices like you have at a bank drive-through, where you go and pull up and you take the little plastic thing out and put your stuff in it and shoot it over. We add those, so they shoot a load sheet down to a door and say, we're sending this truck to you. And that's how they've been doing it. So anyhow, we're converting that over now. And that was the demo I gave Tuesday, that they afterwards was the fateful time at 1:00 in the afternoon when he told me that people were going to be working from home the next day. So we had 4 hours of working time notice.
Wow. So the that thin client, is that is that a Wyse handheld, or is it that does the scanning, or is it a different device?
The scanning, when they're unloading the truck, there's nothing to scan, right? That these pallets come off. They've got in front of them on the screen something that's called, when it's printed, is called a strip sheet, but basically is information about what that driver picked up on his way here. Because I got off track. So what we do is when that we sell the load to the outbound driver, we have them call us. So this guy takes this load to California, like I said. Well, we tell him, when you get empty Friday or Thursday, whenever you get empty and you're ready to work for us, you call us and tell us where you're at. And based on where they're at, we send them to certain places to pick freight up. Not their freight, but freight we need. So this guy might call and say, I'm in Pittsburgh. And they're going to say, okay, come due south and go here and pick up. It might be a whole truckload of stuff that he's picking up. That's going to end up going on 26 different outbound loads, but they can stop and pick up a whole truckload of freight and then bring it to us.
Wow.
And that's included in when we make the negotiation with them, they know that they're going to do that. If they happen to get here early, let's say they get empty on Thursday, they bring in a load, and then we've got stuff that we can't find anyone that's going to be in the area to pick up. We'll pay them to run out on Friday and just like make a run to Philadelphia and come back with a load of stuff or something, you know, run for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and come back. So when that stuff comes in, they have to look at so as that guy picks stuff up, he has the bills of lading that he picks up from the dock, and he reads that off to the dispatcher as soon as he gets the stuff in his truck. So they can mark what he's picked up. We keep stuff in these things called buckets that just is groupings of freight that needs to be picked up that the inbound guys can look at and go, oh, Northern Jersey, we got this much. You know, Western Pennsylvania, we got this much. Eastern, whatever buckets they want to define, they can have these certain cities or certain location codes go into these buckets so they can look at it. And then when the guy says, oh, we went here, they basically build his outbound load by saying this is the stuff he picked up. So when he shows up at the dock, he has an inbound load. They have this strip sheet that shows up on the computer system, and they go through and have to identify the pallets that come off. So they got to look at the bills of lading. They look at the labels that the customers put on the product. They have to determine, is this it? Yes. How many cases is it? And then, you know, how many cases are on a pallet, enter that into the system for each pallet, and then print a tag, put it on the pallet, put it away.
Well, as we wrap up, John, what is the biggest thing you've learned from a BCP, from a business continuity planning perspective that is your big takeaway from this current event that we're experiencing?
Yeah, if you're ever in disaster recovery planning mode and you go to your boss and you tell them, hey, man, we got the server part 100%. This is all working great. We need to talk about how people are going to access this when they blow it off. Do like I have done with everything else in my job and don't let them blow it off and just keep on them because it was a mistake. It would have been if we had to immediately gone to everyone working from home, it would have been a rougher time for the company than what it was. It extended also to the VoIP phones that we have. And these phones you could take home, plug them into your network, and immediately they work. The 911 information on them would be incorrect. And they would have to be sure not to use them to call 911, or we'd have to make a lot of changes to fix that. But we use PoE switches. We don't have any power bricks. So we do now. Well, they're coming. They're supposed to be here today or tomorrow. So we've ordered them. Just something that I didn't even think about. So that's something else, nice thing about a VoIP phone is you can take it home, plug it in. But if you use PoE, people don't have PoE switches at home. Yeah. Another thing to consider is the number of people that you might have that don't have classic internet at home, and they're using a jetpack or some other type of cellular device. They don't even have a network jack. So, for them, our VoIP phones wouldn't work. We can give them a thin client, but we have a limited number of those within. We actually, pretty much all of ours, I think, are wireless, the bulk of them, but we don't have antennas. So now we do. So these are things, that had to be learned in real quick order. So, this is a matter of today is Wednesday? Yeah. Thursday. Yeah. And Wednesday, and so that's 5 working days basically come 1 o'clock this afternoon. So. Yeah.
And the browsers on that Wyse Thin clients, not all of them are loaded with 2 or 3 browser types, right? You can control that from your server farm.
Well, we don't use it that way. They get that from Citrix environment once they connect.
So you don't have the local browser on those thin clients at all. It's totally just the client itself. Well,
it might be on there, but we don't use it.
Okay.
So they just simply connect, and then once they do, we have all that stuff controlled and set up. Like I said, policy-based, privileges.
If using the local machines, that, like you're saying, that's a mess to try to depend on browser versions. But if you can route them through that ICA client into the Citrix environment, that certainly gives you a leg up there, an advantage.
Yeah, they're working the same as they are from home. Even the people that did it for several days, once we sent out information about how to install the client on their computer if they wanted to, we had people come back and say, this is great because now it's working just like it usually does, and that's really that should have been part of the initial planning. And I suggested it, but when it got poo-pooed, I shouldn't have just said, okay, that's
Never
not my
waste a good
responsibility
crisis,
then.
right? Never waste a good
Yeah.
crisis to get something done now.
There you go. Exactly. And now actually it's been so successful that we are looking at, even myself, potentially doing away with a laptop and having a thin client here, having the app on my PC at home, and then having, when I do travel, the ability to go and have like a stable of Chromebooks that you could take with you. So anybody could basically work remote by just having them come check it out. And we'd have to build a little system to manage that, but a way for people to come check out a Chromebook and use it for a week while they're traveling or on vacation.
Well, I appreciate you for sharing all the details here, John. The series that we're in the middle of rolling out now is just meant to give people an idea of how their peers are succeeding and thriving in this crisis. So I do appreciate you carving out the time to share your wisdom and your learning with the rest of the group.
Yes, thank you for the time.
And we'll be in touch shortly. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.